general consensus on Cocoon reminds me of an old academic video I watched a long time ago. But first, let's see what some professionals have to say about this game.
If that all seems confusing, that's because it is. Even just trying to describe the gameplay of Cocoon is giving me a mild headache. That doesn't mean it's not fun, though. The puzzles of Cocoon are challenging, but offer up some unique situations that require you to think hard about how to use an orb's power to manipulate the levels and their environments.
Cocoon prides itself on no hand-holding, as its mechanics are solely taught bit by bit through level traversal. For instance, one of the late levels of the game involves firing a laser. The way the laser is used in areas beyond where it's picked up is combined with many other mechanics. Overall, this felt very organic as you learn what it's capable of. Every mechanic of the game serves a singular purpose, but they are creatively used in each scenario. Every level introduced new scenarios I was excited to engage in, and when I figured out how to solve them, I felt so much satisfaction from its sheer brilliance.
The frequent travel between portals, as well as phasing in and out of orbs, can be a bit jarring. The seamlessness of such actions, however, makes such travel fairly enjoyable, and the trippy nature of these movements enhances Cocoon's mysterious atmosphere, as I frequently found myself in awe of its near-flawless interconnectivity.
Cocoon reminds me of a Gene Wolfe video by a very esteemed philosophy professor called Dr. Gregory Sadler, where he talks about how there are kinds of smart fiction. One is where the author is showing off his intelligence and basking in it, and the other is making the reader feel smart because they get to understand what's going on. Cocoon falls in the latter category. It makes you feel smart for figuring it out, and that, in a way, makes the creator even more intelligent. Okay, so let's talk about these people. They are a product of divorce, and sometimes divorce is a good thing. You get 2 Christmases and 2 New Years and 2 awesome games. After going their separate ways, Playdead, the veterans, ended up giving us 2 different and distinct products that each do their own thing, and by God, do they do it well. Ever since they broke off, we got Jumpship creating an eerie and underrated sci-fi side-scroller titled Somerville, which is in the same vein of, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds kind of thing. And you get Geometric Interactive creating an isometric puzzle game like nothing you've played before. I wish I was exaggerating. In artsy circles, an endless debate rages on whether originality is a thing or if it exists at all. Or even if it did exist, would it be better to have an original artwork or a well-crafted artwork if you can't have both? But Cocoon renders the entire debate obsolete, for it effortlessly proves that an artwork could be original and it could be well-crafted, all the while giving a middle finger to anyone who still thinks video games are not an art form. I do not give a fuck if they're dead. I would love to talk about the game, but there is not much to talk about. Much like a religious experience or a drug trip, words cannot possibly do it justice, and reducing it to a bunch of chemicals in your brain making you happy is not only reductive but absurd. You play as a humanoid beetle thing and you jump from ball to ball, kind of like your mom's favorite pastime. But in earnest, there is not much that makes sense here in terms of narrative. One might go on and say that there is no narrative at all, but that is an insult to all the tinfoil hat-wearing Dark Souls fans who find meaning where there is. The soundtrack, unlike the game, does indeed exist, but barely. What is there, however, sounds great. That is a shame because video games are an audiovisual medium, and the audio is as equally important as the visuals. To clarify, there are 2 games that came out this year that I can use as an example. So I played both of them back to back. One of them is Space Marine 2, and the other is Astrobot, the Barbenheimer of 2024. I loved both experiences, but when I was done with Space Marine 2, the disc was already eating dust. However, I replayed Astrobot the second I platinumed it because of this. Audio matters, people. But audio is not where the magic nor the greatness of Cocoon lays. This is. I did not believe such a thing did exist, but seeing is believing. And I could easily say that pretty much nothing like this exists on the market. This is wild. It's a wild claim, okay? I have played my fair share of games and no other game does this. As of today, there are 101,035 games on Steam. The number might have been surpassed at this point, but that's pretty much every single game out there, with the exception of abandonware games, mobile games, forgotten flash games, and console exclusives. Not a single one of them plays like Cocoon. I know, it just sounds nuts, but it's true. Uniqueness, however, does not equate to greatness. Thankfully, Cocoon is both of the aforementioned attributes. The seamless transition from one world to another, the way you could glimpse the minute world from which you have emerged, only to realize the one you are in is just as minuscule, creates an effect that is essentially the polar opposite of God of War or Ashura's Wrath or Bayonetta. You are corpuscular, and so is the world around you. It is the anti-spectacle game in the best way possible. Ultimately, this is Annapurna's inside, and if that's up your alley, then go for it. In one of my older videos, I questioned Viewfinder for having an innovative mechanic, yet depending heavily on a mechanic borrowed from another game. Cocoon does not suffer from such a problem. It is an entirely unique game. There's really nothing like it on the market. I've been repeating myself, but it's true. You may find more mind-boggling puzzle games like the Talos Principle or Baba Is You. You may find puzzle games with better stories like the Turing Test or Portal 2. But you won't find a puzzle game as close to perfection as Cocoon. In the words of the great bard video game Donkey,
Cocoon is like balloon.